Derivatives. Let's begin with this part, this topic of your CFA Level 1 examination. I would say that this part is important with regards to concepts that it holds, not only with regards to your examination or just from the point of view of passing your CFA Level 1, but this particular topic will help students to understand the practical aspects of derivatives, would make you an aware investor and help you make financial decisions with regards to derivatives and investing in this form of market, this section of the financial markets. So before we start with, I would just tell you with regards to the exam point of view here. What happens with most students here with regards to derivatives is that they find the information or the content of the syllabus a little more complex, and they try and skip it a bit, and then that becomes a problem with regards to your examination. So my advice to you would be to clear your concepts with derivatives, know what exactly forwards, futures, swaps and options are, what are the different kinds of option strategies, how would you maximize your return under those strategies, and so on and so forth. By the end of our first session, you should be able to know how to define a derivative. You need to be able to distinguish between exchange traded and over the counter derivatives. You should explain what is arbitrage and the role it plays in determining prices and promoting market efficiency. You need to understand the purposes and controversies with regards to your derivatives market. So let's basically understand what this markets hold, what kind of instruments does it have, and how one as an investor can benefit from this form of market. So when you're talking about derivatives, the concept of risk is at the heart of this form of investment management. Okay, so financial analysts or portfolio managers continuously need to identify, measure, and manage risk. Okay, basically, in a simple world where stocks and bonds exist, the only risks are the fluctuations associated with market values and the potential for a creditor to default. Okay, but when it comes to measuring risk in these forms of market, it gets way more complicated. If you're measuring risk often with regards to your normal stocks and bonds, you could use your standard deviations, your betas, and your probabilities of default. Okay, but when we're coming to derivatives, this kind of measures of risk don't really work. Okay, so now when we're talking about derivatives, the main purpose of why an investor would invest in derivatives is basically to hedge against a financial loss. Okay, so let's go ahead. The definition, the first slide states that a derivative is a security that derives, as I said, the word itself is a self-explanatory, its value from the value of another asset. Okay, so let's just rewind the definition again. A derivative is a security that derives its value from the value of another asset. General characteristics of this kind of form of investment would be that it is based on the performance of an underlying asset. Okay, now generally, instead of the word an underlying asset, we call it the underlying. Okay, so simply put, the asset is called as the underlying. It is defined and it has a limited life. Okay, so a derivative has a defined and limited life. A derivative contract initiates on a certain date and terminates on a later date. Okay, so it's date specific, and that's why we say it has a defined and limited life. Often the derivatives payoff is determined and or made on the expiration date. Okay, although that is not always the case, we will get into details of this as the payoffs before the expiry date and on the expiry date, and what kinds of different derivatives are there, and so on and so forth. Right now we'll just understand the basic characteristics of this form of investment. Okay, a derivative contract is an agreement between two parties in which each does something for the other. In some cases, as in the simple insurance analogy, a derivative contract involves one party paying the other some money and receiving coverage against potential losses. In other cases, the parties simply agree that each will do something for the other at a later date. In other words, no money need change hands up front. We have basically come up to the general characteristics of derivatives contract. Now let's get ahead to the difference between forward commitments and contingent claims. Okay, now this is basically types of derivatives.